You're going to be just like the IBM engineers 15 years ago that would laugh at me when I'd be at the local pool, community pool, or the Dell engineers. I'd say, they're moving to China. The plan is to get rid of you. And then they'd laugh. And then years later, they go, I'm not laughing now. My replacements are here. I got 6 months and I'm gone at half pay. And people say, oh, that's free market. It's not free market when taxpayer-funded Chinese are trained in engineering at our universities and then sent over there to work in slave wages. It's a giant tariff on us. I'm done talking about that. Let's cram in some calls. I'm going to skip this break here. And then at the end, I want to get into the gold predictions from Lindsey Williams. Alicia in New York, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex and Lindsey, for taking my call. Thank you for everything you do in fighting the New World Order. Berkey, customer, and Prison Printed subscriber. I have two quick questions. One question is, are you going to say all 13 of those items online and on the phone? And another one, is there a way that the elite had given you any way to help us prove that he's not a natural-born citizen? His father was British. Is there any...
Yeah, did this former oil company CEO say anything about Obama's providence, where he really came from?
Mr. Fawning himself never mentioned that subject at all. He did say that Obama was not necessarily their man, and I kind of dropped off of that because then he became president, so they didn't get their way. Now, this new elitist friend of mine that's been giving me information lately, yes, he has gone into this. In fact, he sent me a number of emails relating to Mr. Obama. And listen, Obama is not necessarily doing everything they want. And they get a little upset at him. And I was told that he better watch his step by Mr. Fromm. But yet on this latest communiques that I'm getting, I don't know what might happen. I just hope to goodness that nothing happens to Obama because they don't want to make a hero out of him. And the last thing in the world that anybody should ever do is touch this man. That is a wrong thing to do. The elite are a little upset over some of the things he's doing.
Well, they asked a human rights question during the press conference, and the media acted like that was wrong. And how dare that reporter ask about, and it was a whitewash question anyways, hey, why do you murder political dissidents and sell their organs to U.S. companies? It wasn't a real question. And it's like, how dare they ask something of the gracious, bloodthirsty dictator? It tells you about our government that they don't criticize mass murder anymore. I mean, literally, a Hitler is in America. A Stalin is in America. I mean, they are just murdering people by the hundreds of thousands every year still over there. They have giant slave camps everywhere. They lock a third of their population up every night in giant prison cities. I mean, that's mainline news, and our media says, that might be a good idea. Alicia, good to hear from you. George in Connecticut, you're on the air.
Yeah, God bless you both. I have a idea. I mean, why shouldn't we use the Alexandrian principle? Instead of going after the body, go after the head, as he did in his arm and when he attacked people. Why not go after the elitists? If they want communism, let's confiscate the one percenters, everything they have, confiscate all the oil properties in the United States, and only can be used within the United States, oil and gas.
Yeah, well, that's not the communism they want, but I agree. If we took the top tenth of that top percent, the billionaires' money, and start going, okay, we want communism, instead of like WikiLeaks, CIA run, clearly is about to release 2,000 Swiss bank accounts of people that got 50 million, 100 million. No, let's not burn mid-level, low-level folks that the globalists want to gobble up into the tax thing and then give it to themselves by burning nouveau riche. Let's take the wealth of the Rockefellers. Let's take the wealth of Ted Turner. Let's take the wealth of Bill Gates. Let's see them actually go for that. No, that's not what they want, and that's not going to happen. Lindsey Williams, what's your view on that?
Well, yes, and look what China is buying. They're buying all the gold mines, all the silver mines. They have, okay, people oftentimes ask me, the elite, as you knew them, do they control China and Russia and countries like that? Positively, they do. Let me say emphatically, they do it a little bit different way over there than what they do it here, but you can see that the elite are importing all this gold and silver right into China because they know whose hands it's falling into.
Absolutely, and they finance China to then go in and grab up 90+% of rare earth minerals. This is being done strategically, and then, quote, U.S. companies don't do it because they've moved to China, just like all the other big companies are moving to the Middle East where there's no extradition. What they've done is so dangerous that they are all bunkering down. Okay? I mean, folks, I cannot stress that enough that Lindsey's absolutely right. Anything else, George?
Yeah, then demand that the greenback come back, and also demand that all these free energy devices, hydrogen fuel for cars, I've seen this all over the thing, and also the Tesla things come out. We'd burgeon into a new society. We would just bloom if we just did this. We'd get
no, exactly. The elite spend all their time trying to suppress the total wealth generation of the modern industrialized society. That's what Karl Marx admitted. He said there'll be so much wealth and so much goods, people will work like 1 hour a day. But that's what communism was created by the bankers, to block that, because they have to restrict wealth with artificial scarcity and restrict technology. They are monopoly men. They thrive on poverty and disease and death. Great points, George. Quick comment on that, Lindsey Williams.
Yes, exactly. And watch China. All they'll do is take every bit of this and turn around and gobble us up. All they're waiting is to get all of our technology so they can do what they want to. They're getting our gold and silver now. How much are they buying? I'll give you that in a few minutes. Be sure and take notes whenever I give the part about gold and silver and what.
We'll just break it down now because we're almost out of time, and I want to get to Nancy, Angela, and Lee and others. Go ahead. Break down the gold now.
Yes.
Lindsey, is your phone cutting out? Go ahead and cover the gold briefly now.
Okay. This is so important because back over 2 years ago, I was on Alex Jones' show, and I was frustrated. I was utterly flabbergasted one day when I was on the phone with one of these individuals, and I said, how am I going to be able to protect my family in light of all the things that you've just told me that are going to happen? And he said, Chaplain, there's only one way you can do it. He said, you can't do it with real estate, you can't do it with stocks and bonds, you can't do it with anything written on paper. He said, you can do it with our currency. He said, it's the one thing that'll never be touched. And I said, what is your currency? And they said, gold and silver. I said, what do you mean? They said, we don't trust paper. And this was the expression, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. And I said, do you mean buy gold? Well, I begged you back then when you could buy it for $700 an ounce for gold and you could buy silver for $10, $12 an ounce. I begged you to go and buy every piece you could get in your hands. I'm sure you wish back then you had listened to my elitist friends, not to me, but to them. Okay, here is what is happening right now this week. COMEX Silver Exchange. They were forced into admitting just a few weeks ago. Now, they're the ones that hold the silver for the super wealthy, either China, Russia, super wealthy of the world, and they give them a piece of paper saying we have it in our vaults. They were forced to admit that they have on hand only 107 million ounces of silver, yet they have contractual obligations for 720 million ounces of silver, and some of the people who had them holding that silver for them got wind of this, found out that it is true, and on Friday, the 7th of December, or 7th of November it was, wait a minute, I'm sorry, it was the 7th of December, 4 individuals, not dealers, demanded delivery of 1 million ounces of silver, and it put the COMEX Silver Exchange into a tailspin. As a result, here is what has happened. Listen to these figures, folks. If you think $30 an ounce is high for silver, you haven't seen anything. Listen to what just happened. During the month of December, the U.S. Mint sold, now, please, note these figures, write them down. During the month of December, the U.S. Mint sold 2,221,000 ounces of silver. This has never happened before. At an all-time record for the men of the United States of America. Something very scary is happening because in January, that's right now, the first 12 days of January, that number surged by 50%, and the United States Mint sold, for the first 12 days of January, 3,407,000 ounces of silver, more than sold during the entire month of December, because everybody's buying it. They're doing everything. The Chinese, they're getting their hands on all of it they can. Why? They see what's about to happen. This fits in perfect with this Chinese dictator's presidency in the United States of America. There's no telling what kind of deals he's cutting out there that we don't hear a thing about. Folks, I asked this gentleman, I said, what can I do to protect my family? He said, there's only one thing you can do. He said, you've got to get gold and silver, because when the new currency comes out, you can take that gold and silver and exchange it for the new currency. And he said the old currency is going to be devaluated to the point you're going to lose most of it.
And by the way, Lindsey, to interrupt,
stress to you, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. And he said to me, if you want to protect your family, you've got to use our
gold and
currency.
silver.
That is gold and silver, Alex.
Lindsey, you know, the interesting thing is Hu Jintao would not be saying the dollar's a thing of the past. Here's an AP headline: Who, U.S., China must respect sovereignty. That means letting them take over in the East. They're getting bases right off our coast. I mean, they're moving into Africa, South America, Central America, Mexico. Now they're going to build the high-speed rail in the West Coast. I mean, it's just incredible that China has been empowered and invested in by the globalists. No regulations, no nothing. More regulations on us. And then Obama plays this little shell game like Bush and Reagan and all of them did, where they are always talking about China's got to fix its trade imbalance when our country's run by the main corporations that have moved over there. They're not going to get rid of that trade imbalance. It only gets bigger every month. This was their plan. This was their stated modern mercantilism, which, of course, the French invented and the British used. For those who don't know what mercantilism is you don't let your colonies produce finished goods. You only let them produce raw goods so you can keep the price real low, rip them off, not let them ever accumulate wealth, and then take it to a central country that you choose to have value added put into it, or finished good, and then that keeps your enemies deindustrialized. One reason for 1776 is you weren't allowed to have a factory. You weren't allowed to put the metal end on a wood piece for a shovel. That had to be done in England. And they had taxes on everything. Look, this is all old. They do this over and over again. And China's been chosen as the main factory to shut everybody else down. And we're going to keep Lindsey Williams. We're going to keep going because I want to go to break, come back and take a few final phone calls with Lindsey. But the way Hu is crowing and chirping and saying really aggressive things, which they never do. You know, even when we were, in the Cold War, when dictators were coming over here, they wouldn't shoot their mouth off before they came over, and once they were here, I mean, he's been told, rub it into the Americans, train them, break their will. We're sticking our hands down their pants. We're putting telescreens in. We're transferring over to authoritarianism. We're going to grovel and say your tyranny's good. Literally get up on top of them, mark your territory. You know how a dog does. And that's what they're doing. I mean, these are bloodthirsty, power-tripping murderers the world has never seen. These people as evil as Hu Jintao. And our government just says, we love you. That tells you the government is pure evil. Our government is pure evil at the head. Wake up to that.
We're on the march.
Okay. Final phone calls here with Lindsey Williams. Again, we really appreciate Lindsey joining us. Who's up next here, John? All right, I'm going to rampage through 4 calls, and we got to go. And some quick questions or comments. Appreciate them holding. Nancy, Angela, Lee, and Felix, that'll be it. Nancy, you're on the air worldwide. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Lindsey. I just have a question for you, Lindsey. If your elite friends are giving you all this information, then they must want it to be made public. Is that correct? And if they do, which side are they on? Are they on the elite side, or are they on the people side?
You are correct in your supposition. One of the things I learned when I lived with the elite was that they have a code of ethics, and one of the facets of that code of ethics is they must tell the world everything they're going to do before they do it. They know the coverage that Alex Jones has. They know I'm on Alex Jones' show on a regular basis. They listen to Alex.
It's voodoo.
And
let me just interrupt, Lindsey.
Things I'm saying. Much of this, they feel a moral obligation, according to their moral code. They feel an obligation to get this out to the world is the only thing I can understand. And then they'll turn around later and say, we told you so, why didn't you listen?
No, exactly. That's why 8 years ago, the outgoing head of the Federal Reserve, he he wasn't even outgoing then. Greenspan kept talking about irrational exuberance. When he'd gotten rid of Glass-Steagall, when he was the author of so much that happened, he was an anti-New World Order, pro-gold and silver guy in the 70s and was very popular and hung out with Ayn Rand and, you know, the Ron Paul type crew, and he sold out to the dark side.